Hey guys, it's Josh, and welcome back to the Not So Bad Bachelor Pad, your favorite podcast for learning how to balance between being a functional adult and a raging dumpster fire. Today, inside the Bachelor Pad is Justin. Justin, tell us a little bit about you, your background, where you're from, and how you got to be where you are today.
Yeah, so mainly I'm a natural bodybuilder, personal trainer, and I run my own business out of a little town in called Arroyo Grande, California. It's in the central coast of California, so that's in the middle of basically LA and San Francisco. And there I just privately train people. I have trainers that train people as well under the same in the same studio. I got into personal training from natural bodybuilding or being a bodybuilding competitor. I realized that this innate desire to pour into people the things that I knew or learned about fitness and just making people better in the regards of fitness. And then obviously when you're doing fitness, mindset carries along with that. You have to have a diligent mindset towards doing the things that you may not want to do or a little bit uncomfortable to get the outcome that you want.
Well, I mean, one thing that I have to give the utmost respect for is I tried like early on in my college days to get into competitive lifting, and just the sheer commitment it takes and the consistency that you need to display to not only stay in shape but to get ready to compete is wild. So start off by a huge shout out to you for that.
Thanks, man. It's one of those things where if you're into it, then it's really not work at the end of the day. When I'm training or when I'm when I was even getting ready for competitions, it was just something that I didn't fight the process on. I just did it. And in the process of doing that, it showed me that I had this kind of discipline that I didn't know I had. I had this kind of work ethic that I didn't know I had, because nothing that I've done prior to bodybuilding or competitive bodybuilding had anything was revealing of anything to me in terms of that I had this consistent and relentless work ethic. I had this discipline about me. I could be persistent with something. And so, if anything, aside from the muscles of the body, I took those mental components away from bodybuilding, away from lifting weights, and from being a competitive bodybuilder. It really showed me that I had those things, and I'm just grateful for those.
Life is crazy that way, where you never get into something thinking that it'll have as big of an impact on your life as it does, or that you'll love it enough and feel called to share that passion with somebody else. I talked about this with several other guests. There's something about the clarity that you receive while you're just in a lift or in a session that really does help you feel like you're at the next level. Like, I feel like some of my best thinking is done in the gym. And mindset is such a huge part of that. Not a lot of people, I feel like the people who start at the beginning of the year, those people who say, hey, I'm going to hit the gym, live a healthier life, and they kick butt for maybe 30 days to 2 months in the gym. And then they're like, oh, well, I'm busy at work. And they slowly start to lose that consistency. I feel like they don't really have that mindset to focus on that one purpose. So the fact that you are able to share that and coach people, not only physically, but to build that mindset, speaks volumes.
Yeah, but that mindset comes in tandem with you lifting weights, I think. Like, if you're gonna be able to transform your mindset at the lowest level, the lowest hanging fruit you can pick off the tree is adopt some type of physical fitness routine. Because that, and consistently drawing near to that and doing and facilitating on that every single day, that's going to show you that you had more than what you thought you had. It's going to drive more competence out of you. That's going to breed more confidence. But you adopt this whole mindset shift when you actually partake in the hard shit. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't ever do hard shit or things that are of resistance, and like I said, the lowest hanging fruit that someone could grab from a tree that is resistance is going to the gym and doing hard exercises and pushing the limits of what they could bear, comfortably. Those things reveal to you, hey, you either put up or shut up. And then that, you keep doing that over and over and over again, that compounds over time. And then you realize, hey man, I'm fucking actually stronger than I thought it was, not just physically, but mentally. And that's the big reveal, and the mindset is adopted during the fitness. Really. I mean, And if you have a coach that guides you and keeps you going and doesn't allow you to give excuses, it just further reinforces that mindset. So you can keep gaining new strides in that mindset, you know? But that's what I tell that's what I tell people to do the very first thing. I tell them on my podcast, I tell them in person. It's like, if you want to get stronger, not just physically, mentally, if you want to have a little bit more of a hardened mindset and do the things, or rather stick to your disciplines and do something of measure, do something first that's such the low-hanging fruit. Do something in fitness. Start lifting weights, adopt a program that you adhere to 3, 4, 5 days a week. And on top of that, structure in a meal program for yourself. And don't go off of those macronutrients. You know what I mean? You do that. That's the lowest hanging fruit that anyone could offer someone to be able to become better now, like right now.
I mean, I've never really thought about it in that aspect of the chicken and the egg, what starts first, you taking the initiative to start a program or actually starting the program. But I guess you're right. I was like, if you don't think about it as a snapshot of I'm starting a program and I'm changing my mindset, you're right. I was like, it is kind of a shift where you show up day one, you set a goal, you start taking steps into that goal, and then gradually after time, it's every day, it's natural. When things become natural, you don't think about it. You start setting new goals, and then all the stuff that you've already worked on, built up, kind of just maintains, and you just keep working up. So I think that could actually apply to multiple parts of our life, not just in this physical fitness journey. I feel like really shifting your mindset. I think that's a thing that maybe we can talk about today. And I don't think a lot of people realize is shifting your mindset is not a snapshot. It's kind of like a movie, or, it's just the first step to any goal. One example where we could see that is in our daily just relationships with other people. I was like, everybody kind of starts off as a stranger, and we're not really invested in people. We're so wrapped up in our own little world. But then once we get to know a person, like, you know what, I like them, I want to get to know them, we start investing in them, learning names, birthdays, likes, dislikes, testing boundaries. And then second nature, next thing you know, 5-10 years later, it's still a person who's could be your best friend or your potential partner. So really shifting mindset is something that we need to do in every part of our life to stay balanced.
Yeah. But people never get into that shift because there's not a reason to get into that shift. It's, if everything's up to them to do it, well, they're just going to do what they've been continuously doing for the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And that might be nothing. They might be staying in idle, and there's a reason for that. And the reason is there's no why behind why they want to get better or why they want to make this shift. Because to be honest with you, no one gives a shit about making their mindset hardened. Like, that's just what comes by default when you do hard shit or when you do things that are uncomfortable. You just now become a little bit more hardened, a little bit more stoic, a little bit more understanding of what is valuable and what is not valuable. And what is not valuable is staying complacent. But what is valuable is making somebody into somebody that people admire, respect. And even you can admire and respect. Those things are paramount to every individual. Every individual wants acceptance. Every individual wants to have something that they're unique for. Every individual wants that. I mean, they want a lot of things, but those are two main things that they want. So if I want to be accepted by somebody, I got to first accept who I am. And if I don't accept who I am because I don't really think I'm worthy of being looked up to or admired, then I'm not going to respect myself. And that all goes in tandem with what you do with your life and what you put yourself into that creates this better version of who you are. We talk all the time, hey, create the best version of yourself. But what the fuck does that even mean? It means you developing yourself into the man or woman that you admire, respect, and or look up to. That's what it means. And so whatever you have to do to make that a path and make that happen, that's what you should do. That's apart from your purpose, but more often than not, when you do these things, they end up lending a favorable hand to what your purpose should be or reveal to you what your purpose should be in life. And then you pour into that. And you do this in tandem with working on yourself, which means again, low hanging fruit here, work out, eat better. That's just what you do now. You just do that. You work out and you eat better. That is now a part of your identity. And then on top of that, you work within the confines of what fills you up innately. And these are really the gifts that God gave you. These are things that you use to benefit others, as well as make a means or a life and leave a legacy for yourself. This is what you do now. So if you do those two things, you can't help but create the best version of who you are.
That's everybody's goal. Nobody says or wakes up or has the mindset of, I want to be the worst me, or I just don't want to show up. I was it sounds weird just to say, I was like, by default, everybody was like, this is just me. This, I'm showing up, this is just who I am. So, but you're right. I was like, it's like a bike, you need to pedal both legs to really keep moving, because living life just existing isn't really living, it's existing. I've said that for years and I'll continue to say that. So I was like, you're right. To define being your best self, that means you're always striving to excel. You're always trying to thrive, not just show up.
No, you made a really good point, man. You said, when I wake up in the morning, nobody chooses to be their worst self. But here's the thing. When they choose to hit the snooze multiple times, not get out of bed when they're supposed to, and I've been guilty of that shit too, but when they choose to not fulfill tasks in the day, or they choose to instead eat a really horrible breakfast to start their day off, if they choose to not say what they're grateful for, if they choose to not do that workout in that day, they're actually choosing to be their worst. And that's what they don't understand. They actually are choosing that, man. And it is a choice at the end of the day. And the life is about choices and trade-offs. So you can choose to be your best, or be 1% incrementally better than you were yesterday, or you can choose to be your worst, which is at best idle, the same for what you were yesterday or worse. And that's the thing, dude. If more people compartmentalize it like that, and there's more of a threat response on people to understand that, look, I am choosing, it is black, it is white, it's better or it's worse, then there would be a more illuminating light around the topic of doing things that you need to do to be better every day. Like, more people will put a precedence on it, right?
I typically operate outside of binaries, but you're right. In this situation, I was like, am I better than I was yesterday? Yes or no? I mean, that's all you can be. It's not, well, I mean, I'm not, you're right. There's no room for gray room. There's no indecisiveness. It's either, yes, I was better. No, I wasn't. And then after that thought occurs should be, what do I need to do to get there? I love what you say. Like, when you continually hit that snooze button, if hitting the snooze becomes habitual, you're right. You are actively choosing not to be your best self, because we set this alarm for a reason. And then when we start ignoring the reason we're doing things, we're just going through motions, phoning it in. We're becoming complacent. And when we become complacent, you're right. There really isn't a more of a rock bottom than, this is what I allow for myself. No, that's not how you live life. This is what I allow. No, this is what I deserve from myself and for myself. So thank you, because you just gave me a little shake, because I might have been starting to get idle in some ways with how I was viewing things. So I need to remember to stay on my P's and Q's and be like, no, we're not the same person we were yesterday. We're a little bit better. We learned something.
Yeah, man.
We grew a little bit. We pushed ourselves in some aspect.
Yeah, I agree. And the goal is for us to respect and admire ourselves first. That's it. Like, if you don't respect and admire yourself first, no one else can around you. And it shows up in everything, in every way about you. It shows up in the way you speak to people. It shows up in the way that you look at people if you keep eye contact. It shows up in your posture. It shows up in your walk. It shows up everywhere. And if you don't respect or admire yourself, then no one else can around you. And the first thing to respect yourself with is competency, right? Competency, doing something that you're competent in. If you get good at lifting weights, if you get good at getting a body, which is the first thing you can do, it's all within your control. That job that you like might not be, or that degree that you want might be 4 years down the road. You can't get that degree now, but what you can get right now is you can work avidly towards creating a better physical representation of you, which is going to translate internally. And that's going to show up in the way that you walk. It's going to show up in your confidence levels. It's going to show up in the way you speak to people, the way you articulate a message, your eye contact, your gait, your posture, all of it. And that's really that's the first thing that starts to move people in the right direction, is getting fit and adopting a better nutritional course of action. It's one of those things that people think are so negotiable. It should not be negotiable. Like, you are what you eat, man. You not only are what you eat, but you are what you look like to the world. People are judging you every fucking moment that you put yourself out in the world. They're judging you. It's sad, but they're judging you based on the way that you look, your prowess or lack thereof. They're judging everything, dude. And people can say all day, I don't judge. You're the worst judger. You're the worst judger if you're saying I don't judge. Because everybody judges. Because it's what we're meant to do from a primal aspect. We're meant to screen with our eyes, analyze, and detect threat. We have to know whether or not this person's a threat or not. That's judgment.
100%.
At the end of the day. Sure, you're not judging their history. You don't know anything about them. You're not judging their wrongs. That's God's job. But you're judging their physical representation and what you interpret, walking up to that person, speaking with them, seeing if they have an agenda of sorts or not, or they're just genuine. And I mean, all those things come into play when you're presenting yourself to the world. So I mean, the first thing we should look at is our physical representation, which is going to definitely penetrate our internal representation, and it's going to lead us in our walk in life. It's going to lead us in the way we speak, in the way that we walk, in the way our posture, etc. Our energy, our light that we emit to the world. It's going to come out everywhere. If we're more competent in something that we're doing, we're confident. Competence breeds confidence. So get started in something that you're competent in, and let that spiral into confidence.
And we all know that confidence is sexy. More people tune into you when you are confident about anything you're speaking about. And you're right, the two C's go together: competency and confidence. Because when you are standing on something that you really understand, you feel good about yourself. Like you said, it creates that confidence. And I like what you said about how you are what you present to the world. And that's so true. That's another thought that I don't think people really think about. Because even though we live in this world where we're like, body doesn't matter, body does matter. I don't hate to say it because it's just the law of nature. Like you said, there are some primal things that are ingrained in each and every one of us genetically. We can't help it. We'll never change that. But we have to acknowledge that part of us. Part of being your best self is to take your knowledge and just keep leveling it up. Knowing that how you present yourself really takes into consideration how people perceive you or interact with you. If you have a job where you're in sales or you're doing some type of leadership role and you're supposed to be inspiring people, how can you do that if you're not presenting your best self? Whether that's taking account of your health and staying consistent in your workouts. Me and my coworkers used to joke with this because I used to work in an ER, and I was like, nurses, doctors, they tell you what's best for your body, how to be healthy, how to continue to strive. Some of us had the worst diets or like the worst like living patterns. We were eating Uncrustables like 2 or 3 times a day just so we could like get something in. Obviously, that's not a well-balanced meal, but we're telling you, no, you need fruits and veggies, and here we are like just doing that shit. So I was like, sometimes it can be a bit hypocritical. We know that it's a problem. We try to do better when we can. And we have to give ourselves the grace that nobody's 100% of the time. We're humans. We're not machines. Sometimes we need a cheat day. We need a mental day to just reset. That's okay. That's not what we're saying. We're saying consistency is the main word here. Be consistent in your portrayal, in your walk, and in every aspect of your life. That's what I took away from what you were saying. Because if you were consistent in your workout, but you're not consistent in your actual work, it's the same as being all talk. I was like, it's one thing to just say words and have these affirmations, but if you don't believe in these affirmations and then go out and do them, You're right. They're just idle. They're just nice, flashy words that might make you feel good for a minute or so. You really have to believe and then affirm them into your daily walk.
Yeah, man. And I would say this, that there has to be sorts to make people do something. So, for example, for me, I wanted to get into bodybuilding because I wanted to look better. It was purely vanity. That's all it was. I wanted to look better naked. And I knew that if I did that, I'd be more confident. Like at some level, I knew that, even at the young age that I started lifting in. And so, realizing that I just wanted to do this for vanity purposes, that was good enough for me to fucking change and change everything. My mental construct, everything, obviously my physical representation, everything, man. And it led me towards my purpose. And that's what I want people to understand. Like, even if you get started for a stupid reason, if it's selfish, fine. But get started. Like, most people work out because they want to look better, period. They're not doctor ordered. It's not like your doctor's telling you, hey, man, you got to work out. Like, it's not that, man. They want to look better. So if vanity gets you through the door, I'm all for that. That might be the impetus that people need to start changing their life. It's because they want to look better. They want to feel better, want to look better. But there's got to be a reason why they start. And also, they might have to get to that point where they're super frustrated with what they look like, with what they feel like, that they're tired of it. They don't want another day of it. They don't even want another minute of it. They're done with it. They want to change now. And that's another reason to get started. But there's got to be a reason why people stop this charade and they get going on the right path. And please do not twist my shit, dude. It is the right path. This lifestyle is the right path. If there was a right and there was a wrong, this is right. What you're doing is wrong. If you don't take care of your health, it's wrong. If you don't move your body, it's wrong. It's black and white, dude. It's like good and evil. It's so black and white, it's like comparing good and evil. So sometimes people just have to get to that point where they're so frustrated with their current state that they don't want to live another day like this. And that's the thing that gets them going. Or they just want to look better. They're in it for vanity purposes. Fine. But whatever the case is, you have to get to a point where you're tired of your old self and you want to strip yourself of the old version and come into the new version. You have to make that decision, though. That has to be you. No trainer, no guru, no mindset coach can make that decision for you.
You have to be the one to want it, no matter what the reason is. We're not here to judge what your reason is for starting the journey. But what we are here to do is to be a support to help you stoke those flames. So we spent a lot of time talking about mindset, but one thing that is hard for everybody is sometimes we waver. What are some things that you worked with your clients with to help them fortify that mindset? Because sometimes we reach a plateau. We think we're just not getting results anymore. Other people might see that we're still working and that there are results being shown, but we miss it in ourselves. What are some things that help you when you reach a plateau, just keep trucking along?
Consequences are probably the biggest thing for people to understand that exist within themselves for them to keep pedaling forward. Consequences. There's no there's no positive platitudes. There's no positive or inspirational memes. There's only consequences. And the consequences are you let yourself down. You made this goal, you let yourself down. You're less than now as a result. Now, what does that do for somebody when they hear that? When they hear that voice come in their head? Because everybody hears that voice. It makes them do one of two things. Go against it, level up, or submit to it. It's one of the two. And I won't be a submitter because I know my worth and I know what I'm capable of. But I only know what I'm capable of because of what I've done in the past. And so if I keep compounding on that and not letting myself down and not missing, then I know that I become stronger and more formidable every single day. And I can look in the mirror with a sense of pride and knowing that I was the one that created this. No one helped me. I mean, yes, there's guidances along the way, but no one put the spoon in my mouth. No one put the barbell in my hands. No one told me to wake up at this time. I did this shit. And so because I did this shit, now I become an authority. Now I become convicted. Now I become a leader. Now people can follow me because they trust me and where I'm going, because I am the representation of where they want to go. And the thing is, the only thing that got me there was consequence. Understanding that there was consequences attached to the things that I knew I should do but didn't do.
That's the thing I've talked about also several times on the show here recently is I've always said I don't want to be a superhero. Okay, so I was like, people look up to heroes thinking that they don't have to do anything. Somebody will come rescue you. I'm not your superhero. That's not what I'm here for. You have to be the one when you're hanging on the cliff to pull yourself up. You can't be hanging around just hoping somebody's going to come lift you up out of that depression, lift you up out of your fatigue, lift you up out of whatever pitfall you're in right now. That's your job. That's literally your job. Once again, we talked about not just existing. You have to thrive. If you really want to survive and live a great life, you have to be the one to rescue yourself. And then sure, after you put on your metaphorical like air mask, you can help the person next to you, like they say on the planes. But it starts with you. And if you aren't going to be there to support yourself, what are you really expecting from anybody else? How do you really expect to be living a quality of life if all you're doing is just waiting to be rescued every day? So I could see consequence being the biggest.
Yeah. And you're showing the world who you are. You think you're being smart and by concealing who you are. It's like you walk outside the door, everybody knows who you are. Everybody can see who you are. People aren't stupid. You're not concealing. You're not holding anything from anybody. You're not mysterious. People can see exactly who you are by when you walk up to them. They know exactly what you're about for the most part. It probably at least 80%. They know about 80% of you, what you're about. Based on the way you look, the way you carry yourself, your energy, your light or lack thereof light. They know, man. People are smart. Human beings are smart. And so this is the reason why you need to keep consistently moving toward the right direction and respecting yourself and being the person that you would look up to and admire.
Now, a lot of people think just because of the name of the show is Bachelor Pad, that this is just for guys. This is all about men. But I was like, I tend to disagree. I think the point in this show is for everybody to be learning something. And I think this point is just as important for men as it is for women. Do you work with just all male clients, or do you have anybody who really wants to start their journey men only? And that's great. And that's great because there are a lot of things where life or certain lessons don't translate just because I was like, they are different. And so I think this is something that is really prevalent today. Is a strong mindset used to be something, and leadership used to be something that was considered very masculine by identity and was men only. Women were submissive and they followed. So now that's kind of flipping. You see more women trying to take charge and quote unquote boss up, as they say. But do you believe that some of those old gendered roles play any part in not just shaping our mindset, but how we continue to walk in it?
Yeah. I'm very traditional. So I'll just start off by saying that I'm very traditional. In the house I grew up in, my family is very traditional in terms of the woman and the man had certain roles that they fulfilled. And I'm used to seeing that, and I'm used to operating that way. Now, I'm of the camp that I have a burden of performance on me as a male. I feel it more and more. The older I get, the more I became a man, I've felt that. I believe there's a stigma on males to become better and to become a provider, etc. I think that the way the shift is nowadays, because women are so much more masculine in their approach when it comes to the dating field, etc. These men have to become the feminine version to be able to amalgamate the man and the woman. There's never going to be two masculines or two feminines in a relationship. There's always going to be a dominant and a submissive. I mean, as much as people don't want to admit to this, there is a hierarchy in regards to your workplace. There's a hierarchy in regards to a relationship. There's always a hierarchy. It's never flat 50-50. Never. Whether it's 49-51, 70-30, whatever. There's always a hierarchy. Their hierarchy or the person that holds the more percentage of the matter is going to obviously hold the leadership and hold the control. And more women nowadays they're able to monetize so much more heavily than they were before, and the men are becoming more feminized in their approach towards getting these women, because women are now expecting more out of these men, and they're, because they don't need a man and they want a man, they're now thinking like, well, I don't need you, so I can do this on my own, so what do you bring to the table? And it's by default making these men more subjugated in their roles, more subjugated in the way that the way that they present themselves towards a woman, because all the men want is to get with these women. You know, that whole saying like pussy rules the world. Well, in some aspect it does, but it rules the men. It keeps the men in this position of like, well, do I do this? Do I do this? I want to make sure I get this woman. I don't have to do that, to act this way. I have to look, dude. Women at the end of the day, they don't want to be leaders in the relationship. They want to be followers. They want a man that can lead them with masculinity and strength, protect them, provide for them. That's most women. That's not all women. That's most women, though. Women want strength, just like men want femininity. Now, if you toggle to the other side a little bit, okay, that's all subjective. I guess that's the minutia of men or women that toggle to the other side. That maybe men want more of a masculine woman and maybe women want more of a feminized man. But ultimately, I'm telling you, because we have data to support this, that doesn't scale. That type of relationship, that codependency will not scale. That type of dynamic will not scale. Women typically, more often than not, they want masculinity. They want strength. They want leadership. Men want submission. They want femininity. They want nurture. Go ahead, bud.
What I was going to say is it's always so hard to find a true balance. Like you said, it's rarely a 50-50 thing between, as far as energies go, of masculine and feminine, because we talk about wanting a partner, but even in partnerships, you know, things aren't always 50-50. That you have somebody who's really good at X but not good at Y. That's why you need person who's good at Y to balance it out. And I think in this era where gender still plays a part, from the smallest category of yourself to the biggest category of yourself plays a part in how you're perceived and what you can earn in the world, what you can take, what's given to you. But you're right. In this age where women are making more or have more say in their survivability, because before I was like, really, if you were unpartnered after a certain age, you know, you couldn't really provide for yourself as a woman. Now that's not really the case. I was like, you can work for whenever. Sure, you might not get paid as much. You know, there's still all types of aspects that go into that. I feel like sometimes women feel like they have to force this masculine role because the masculine role is missing, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Whether it's how they grew up, or even for some men, you know, if it's really, it's so hard for me. It's one of those also chicken and egg scenarios. Which happened first? Did masculinity start to disappear, or were women wanting more, so to speak? Because there are a lot of people who grew up, you know, without fathers or great male role models in their life. So when that happens, you have a person, little boy or a little girl, growing up with maybe more feminine energy because they're in a single parent household from a mom. And so mom being mom and dad gave way to a whole new generation of person, a whole new mindset, so to speak. And I can say I was a product of that. For the most part, I lived in a single family household where mom was the law and the nurturer, you know, and I believed that any other woman could do the same. I was like, they can hold themselves down and provide. So are these situations sometimes feeding into that declining of masculinity we're seeing in some men?
Yeah, well, you mentioned that they can do that, but is that the optimized way to go about things? They can do it, like they can take on both roles, but is that the most optimized way to go about raising a child or building a family? Now, to your point, man, there are so many strong women, man, like that. They take on so much. Like even my woman, she takes on so much. She works for me. She does so many things around the house. Like, I'm grateful for her up and down. Like, I don't, she makes me a better man, but also I make her a better woman because I display masculinity at a level that keeps her in her femininity. And so at some level, most people have this innate understanding, women and men, that they need to be X type of way. I believe that. Like, yes, how you're raised definitely matters, but biologically, at the cellular level, at the biological level, people understand their roles. Women and men both. There are certain like biological urgencies that start to become apparent the older you get. And why do boys like blue and girls like pink? Like that, there must be some type. I can't explain that. I'm not acting like I can explain it or nothing. But there's a reason behind that. What is that reason? Like, I just think that there are different. There are profound innate biological urgencies for men and women to, I guess, carve out their path in life with. And I think that in this modern era, people have gone away from those because they know that they can do it, but they know that it's not optimized. So just because you can doesn't mean that it's the most proficient way to go about it. And for that reason, it's probably a lot of the reason why relationships are not working out to this day, in this day and age, and why there's such a high divorce rate, and why men and women are not procreating the way that they once were.
You can say that there are a lot of very unique family structures in today's world, where it used to be you needed a husband, you needed a dad in order to have a kid. Now that's not the case. I was like, there are a lot of homes that have two moms or two dads. I was like, there's so many ways to make and create your own family nowadays, where you're right, you don't need the traditional binary dichotomy. And it doesn't pain me to say it, but I was like, there are some traditions that are worth keeping around, at least in my opinion. And I think we have a lot to learn from both sides. I think that's why biologically we needed one person to lay a seed and another person to bear the fruit, or, to grow the child, because there was something that we needed to learn from both. I mean, we could have been made to be like plants and pollinate asexually, but we weren't. We were given two different sets of chromosomes for a reason. And I think that we need to find a way to go back and appreciate that, so to speak. Now, that's not me walking back on anything I've ever said on the show of, I believe, like you said, you can do something. I believe any and every woman can be the biggest boss of their life. And I believe any and every man can be super nurturing to their family or to themselves. But like you said, just because you can do something, if we're really living our best lives, does that mean that we're doing it to the best of our ability? That's a really great question. And I love that you phrased it in that way of, is it the most optimal way to do something, to live this life?
Yeah.
As much as I would say, like, hey, I would love to go back to that traditional lifestyle, the internet is crazy. I'm going to start by saying that. I can't help but scroll through TikTok or Instagram or Twitter or whatever and just see how wacky that we've all become. I was watching a video today where this woman was in Walmart with her boyfriend. She said they had been dating like 3 days, and she had expected, because he was a man in the relationship, that he should be buying all of the necessities for her and her child that wasn't his, by the way. But to me, I was like,
Right.
yes, the man is the provider, but I was like, what's going on in our heads that what am I projecting that you think I'm your piggy bank? That goes back to what you were saying earlier, is how people perceive you goes a long way into how they interact with you. And you can't be modern and traditional at the same time in certain aspects. I feel like if you're gonna let that man be the man in your relationship, then you have to let him lead, and you have to let him set boundaries. You have to let him settle in and be the breadwinner, but you can't expect to be like, no, I'm the head of the household, you're bringing home the bacon. You see what I'm saying? It seems like some of the components they're not pairing.
Yeah, let me add to that real quick. You mentioned that on the video, she was 3 days into the relationship and she was expecting him to pay and everything. Well, that's not you. You asked the question, or you posed the question: is that what am I doing, or what are men doing that's making women think? It's like, we're not doing anything, man. I mean, yes, on one end of the spectrum, if that male is a beta male or he's feminized, then yes. I mean, maybe she's just taking advantage of him. But in the reality, it's more societally what the society is telling her, and then it comes from an entitlement aspect as well. So really, it's not really the man at the end of the day. It's more so how that woman has been groomed by society in terms of her thought process. And then on top of that, there's probably a little bit of entitlement on her end as well. So she's looking at all of her friends that are doing the same thing, watching the same TikTok videos that other people have made, basically emasculating their boyfriends and their husbands and shit. And so then they go off and they do the same thing. They just replicate it, right? And then you also mentioned that there was this letting the man lead. Like, the woman's got to let the man lead. There's no letting. There's no letting in my household. There's no letting. It is a one-track operation. And that track, I'm in front and she's in the back. She's following me and I'm leading. Period. This is the way it is. And I think that when you say let, that lends the hand of, or the idea that it's up for debate here. This is not up for debate. In the relationship, I'm the man, I'm the leader, I'm the strength, I'm the one that goes in front. You, by extension, are in the back. That doesn't mean that you're a welcome mat. That doesn't mean that you're trampled all over. That doesn't mean that I don't respect you and I don't give you what you need. That doesn't mean any of that. But people will form that idea off of that illustration. And so I just have to clarify and give context. There's an order to this thing. And it's not by you letting me. It's by everything that I am as a man and why you want me in the first place. And so these are the way that things go. So, for example, if we're in bed and there's an intruder at the front door and I can hear something going on at the front door, I don't say, oh, well, do you want to go get it or do you want me to get it? No, I'm the one that goes, period. And then guess what? She's back behind me, or she's staying in bed. She's not in front. She's not on the side of me. Where is this different in the way that we move in life in general? You're not on the side of me. You're not in the front of me. You're in the back because I'm your leader. Period.
And like you said, I don't want to say it's funny because there's nothing comical about it, but it's genetic. If you look at how certain animals hunt, I was like, where is the lioness when walking with the lion? You know, it's always right there on that back shoulder. Because you're right. I was like, we take the brunt of it. That's what we were designed to do. I was like, we're heavier, we're bigger, we're a little more durable. I was like you said, there's plenty of science that we could get into about that, but that's not what we're here for. But it seems like it's only relevant to certain people, or they only remember that in a time of consequence, in a time of crisis, and then they default. Well, they're like, oh, she's the man, she's in charge or whatever. Oh, there's a spider. Oh, there's an intruder. Get it. You know, I was like, oh, so now I'm the man. And yeah, you're right. What happened to all that bravado you had earlier?
Look, dude, there's always an order, right? There's an order behind fast food restaurants and their process. If you walk into a McDonald's, the janitor is not doing the cashier work. The cashier is not going back and doing the fries. There's an order and a process. There are rules. Rules are a good thing. Without rules, we have chaos. With chaos comes dysfunction. So why are people demonizing roles? Because it's an old traditional term. Roles are going to be the breeding ground behind structure. Isn't structure a good thing? Of course it is. Because it comes with no chaos. How is it so fucking hard for people to wrap their head around? It's only because of this progressive talk. And look, there are some things that I'm progressive in, but there are a lot of things that I'm very conservative in. And roles are one of them, because I understand at just the psychological level, it breeds no chaos. And with no chaos comes no dysfunction, or very little dysfunction, or very little chaos. If I can start to mitigate all those different avenues, I do my best at being a better person, moving forward in life, concentrating on things that actually fucking matter. Not this whole rule shit. This should be normalized. For some reason, it's not. For some people, it's up for debate. Not in my house, and it will never be.
There is sometimes, more often than not, a level of comfortability in scenarios that are black and white, in the binary, because you know what is and you know what is not. And people like knowing. The unknown's super scary and chaotic, all type of madness out there. So you're right. I was like, why are we demonizing these roles? We're not saying that, I feel like redefining is too strong of a word. We're not saying that these roles haven't evolved since way, way back in the day when our great grandparents, were alive and they didn't have the opportunity or the mobility that we have now. Yes, things have changed. Yes, things have evolved. And you're right. There's nothing wrong with being progressive in some aspects, but that's not to say that we should completely abandon a system that's worked for generations, that's continued our species for even longer.
Yep. Amen, dude. I agree with that.
Today has been a fun one for me because I always like to be challenged. I always love interacting with people with new or different mindsets from myself, because I feel like that's the way that we sharpen our own steel, is to talk to people with different ideologies, or sometimes the same ideology but just a little farther along. Sometimes I feel that when you haven't been with somebody who challenges you in a while, you get a little soft, a little pudgy around the edge. Your metal's not as strong as it was before when it was battle tested. So I think today's been a great conversation because it's reminded me of some of the things from my past that maybe I let go of when I shouldn't have. It reminded me that you're right. Roles themselves are not problematic. They're actually really good because we do love structure and it helps create a solid foundation. So Justin, I have to just say thank you for coming on today and reminding me of that.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks, Josh. Thank you so much.
Yeah, but anybody who's seen the show knows that we can't just let him get out of here without letting him do an amazing round of quickie questions. So, Justin, this section of the show is by far probably my favorite because I feel like we spend so much time being titles like trainer, coach, guru, or whatever, that people don't really get to know us. Because I was like, we're still people. We're just people with titles. So they're just impulse questions. Don't think too hard about them. Just kind of the first thing that comes to mind. Give me your answer. Okay?
You got it.
So the first question I love to ask, I love, love, love asking this question, is if you were to die tomorrow, what is one thing that you think people would remember you by?
You still don't have to think too much about it, but then you ask really in-depth questions.
Listen, I was like, my base level is deep, okay? I was like, I'm always ready for it.
I would like for them to remember, or what they would remember me by.
That is a good distinction. I will let you decide.
I'd like for them to remember that I took time to conversate, and when I did take time to conversate with people, even in passing, that they left me knowing that I cared about what they had to say and what topic we talked about. And not to mention that I guess that runs in tandem with knowing that I cared about people's progression in life in terms of what they were going to become, what they could become, and the potential that they have in them.
Okay. Question 2. What do you think is the best compliment that you've ever received?
You're talented. I think that's probably the best.
Listen, simplicity is key. And I love that you didn't overcomplicate it. Because you're a fellow podcaster, this is a question that one of my staff asked me, and I love asking it to people who own their own show or own their business now. If you could have one guest on your show, who is somebody you would really love to collaborate with right now?
Probably Kanye West.
Really? Okay. All right. It's not a bad name right now. I'm pretty sure you can have a lot of interesting conversations with Kanye or Ye, whatever he's going with these days. And then last question. What is one thing that you think that you could improve on as a partner?
Well, I'm not a partner. I'm the man, and I have a woman. And so the woman is my helpmate. I'm the man. I just need to make that distinction. I don't believe in partnership. I don't believe in anything, because this is not a partnership. This is a hierarchy. And my woman wants it that way. And the women that are feminine and in their femininity, they want it that way. So, and that's even how it is in the Bible. I mean, the woman is the helpmate to the man. one thing that I would want to be as a better partner, I want to be more of a provider, more of a protector, even more than I am right now. I want to keep augmenting those things. I want to keep augmenting them so it keeps her in a position of safety, security, and ultimately that's love for her.
One thing that is beautiful to me is consistency. And I love how firm you are in your relationship. And I love that your woman, because I'm guessing you are in a relationship, is just as equally excited about that or like loves that too. Because sometimes I say this, I think I said this a few episodes ago, maintaining a relationship is hard. So the less guessing you have to do when you're doing that, the better. The more time you can actually focus on developing that bond, the more time you can focus on other priorities, other goals that you guys have in mind. So the fact that you have these roles so set in stone and you both live by them seamlessly is amazing to me.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
These are really good.
There are over 2 million shows out here. I know I'm not the only podcast you guys are listening to. You're probably also listening to Justin's as well. So I have to be a little different. So I like to come up with questions that aren't just superficial, shallow, that actually, like I said, I want to get to know who you are. Yet another reason why you guys can invest in his teachings, his practices, is because look at his answers. He gave quality answers. He knows who he is as a person. He's not flying off the wing of his seat during this whole interaction, during this whole interview. So that says a lot about your character.
Appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Now, as much as I love all you guys, you know I love to share the love. So, Justin, before we get out of here, are there any last words, anything you really want to share with us? And where can we find you if we want to work with you?
Yeah, so the best way to get a hold of me right now is through my Instagram, and that's going to be Justin Craig Groth, no underscores or anything, just a straight Justin Craig Groth. And then you can visit the Instagram, give me a DM, or you can visit the podcast and Straight from the Chest on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, and you can shoot me a question on there if you like. But the best way, the easiest way right now, because the website's in the process of reconstruction, so I don't want to shout out the website or anything, that the best way to get a hold of me to contact me through any of my services, whether it be mindset, fitness, or both, is going to be through Instagram DM.
Alrighty. Once again, Justin, thank you for taking the time out of your day and just hanging out with us, just chatting. I'm going to share with you, I guess I'm going to share with everybody because this might be the first time I've announced it out loud. But every year, the show, we have a theme or a phrase that we like to live by. And I had a guest on not too long ago, and she said, I got tired of being a Honda, so I turned myself into a Lamborghini. So that's kind of our mindset for 20 is we're Lamborghinis. We are living our best life, putting our best foot forward, because that's what it means to thrive. And hopefully this year is nothing but constant success for you, just like it is going to be for us.
Hey, man, that's good, bro. But I'm not a Lamborghini. I'm a Bugatti.
Oh, he's a Bugatti. Listen, we love a man with distinction, okay? Still a high-class luxury vehicle he is. Alrighty? Guys, I will see all you beautiful bachelors and bachelorettes next week for another episode of the Not So Bad Bachelor Pad.